And we're going to turn live now to our correspondent, Natalia Margarita. She is in Bogota for the latest on these developments in the Colombia peace process. Natalia, let's talk about the significance of these declarations by Santos. Are we really seeing a true de-escalation here of this conflict, and could it lead to a bilateral ceasefire? And we should also remember that we have seen measures like these before, but then we have seen a resurgence in the violence. Should we be worried about that once again?
Latest announcement by President Santos regarding the suspension of airstrikes, because it is seen as one step towards the bilateral ceasefire that all these organizations have been calling for. It was also an announcement that people here in Colombia were expecting, because let's remember that when the FARC announced the unilateral ceasefire that started 1 week ago, Cody, the president at the same time said that he will be implementing reciprocal de-escalation measures. So we're definitely, right now, it has been just 1 week with this unilateral ceasefire and by the FARC, but in fact, according to different organizations and centers that monitor armed conflict here in Colombia, they have said that we can already see a de-escalation of the conflict. So let's imagine now with this suspension of the airstrikes, definitely residents of the rural areas of Colombia are gonna see a de-escalation. We still need to wait to move forward towards a bilateral ceasefire, but what is true is that it's being considered as a very important and significant step towards that bilateral ceasefire, Cody.
Okay, and Natalia, let's talk in general about the dialogue itself taking place in Havana, Cuba. How are things developing there as the talks continue this week?
Well, as you said, the peace negotiations there in Havana continue to advance. Right now, they are focusing in the point of victims, which is the 4-point of the 5-point negotiation agenda there. This issue of victims include the issue also of transitional justice and truth seeking. So we're expecting that things were a little bit under heightening tensions, let's say, due to the de-escalation of the conflict. But the hope here in Colombia is that now with this new de-escalation of the conflict, this is gonna help out so that the negotiations there in Havana are gonna be advancing. Right now, we also need to say that they are simultaneously working in subcommissions, what it's called subcommissions. One is the subcommission of the issue of victims, and as I said, and the issue of transitional justice, but at the same time, there is another subcommission that is called the Technical Subcommission for the End of the Conflict, and they are discussing the technicalities that the end of the armed conflict will imply. So we hope to have announcements soon as both things advance, the negotiation in Havana and the de-escalation of the armed conflict here in Colombia.
And briefly, Natalia, let's talk about that mass grave that we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, a horrifying discovery there. What other details can you share with us? And do we have any idea who might be responsible and how this might be related to the false positive scandal?
Yeah, Cody. Well, we need to put this a little bit into context by saying that the idea to start to work on this mass grave came after a judicial order following the testimonies of a paramilitary leader that was extradited to the United States in 2008, is Diego Murillo, alias Don Berna. He confessed crimes that are, among the crimes he confessed, are those related to those bodies that we can find in this mass grave there in Medellin. So following or taking into account these testimonies of this paramilitary was that a judicial order was issued to work on this mass grave. Right now, the number that the authorities are speaking about here in Colombia, it's something between 80 and 90 bodies there. But this number is very likely to raise once they start, the authorities and the investigation teams start working in this mass grave. It's expected to last, the work on this mass grave is expected to last something around 5 months. But again, I insist that as the number of bodies might very likely raise, the time that it's going to take to work on this might raise also. And finally, also, it is important to highlight that people and victims of the false positives, as you have been you have mentioned, has said that this is also a very important step towards truth seeking. That is an issue that, as I said before, is right at the center of the peace negotiations right now in Havana.
Well, it's certainly a disturbing discovery. All right, Natalia Margarita reporting for us now from Bogota. Natalia, thank you.
Back to you, Cody.